peace without justice is impossible, because peace and justice are really related. Why? Because if today we're living in a world, or we are living in a community wherein there is no justice, there will be no peace. Because if there is no justice, supposing a group of people harm another group and there is nobody to take the arbitrary, there is nobody to bring justice and treat those people that did this action, then the other side will look for revenge. If they look for revenge, there will be a cycle, a non-stop cycle of always trying to find a way to fight against those people who once did bad things to us. So I think peace without justice cannot be reached.
First of all, thanks a lot, Mr. Bechir. You said something about the Western imperialism, right?
Yes.
So my question is, how can we as Africans get rid of this imperialism that is draining our country? Thank you.
All right. Thank you for this important question. Really, this question is a very big one. I have mentioned at the beginning that I'm not really a specialist in such things, but however, I'm gonna try to answer the question. You know, the imperialism has been... All right, good morning everyone. My name is Bechir Issa, Abdelmanane. Thank you for having me today. I have received the invitation from Tchad English Center, especially from the Tchad English Show. And that's a very huge privilege for me to today stand in front of you and discuss about the topic that is about peace. I'm not really a specialist in peace, but I'm going to discuss about the facts around the world and what's really happening in damaging our world harmony and living in happiness throughout the whole societies and also around the world. So before going through the topic, I want to come back to say things about myself and about Tchad English Show and how the adventure has started. Actually, I've been with those guys from a really long period of time, and even before the beginning of the Tchad English Show and also Tchad English Center. And I see really that everybody appreciates the works they're doing, and it's a really big privilege seeing them helping the society, helping the community, and giving back to us so that we can improve our English and we can also be seen as Tchad speaking English. So I want to say to those who are really watching us from the social platforms, social media platforms, to follow us and also to like all the videos we pass through it. So what's peace, first of all? Peace is actually defined as the living of in harmony and happiness, working together, especially there is no harm, there is no conflict, and always life goes as is. And we know as human nature, a lot of things are really passing in contradictory ways. I mean by contradictory ways because we always have disagreements, right? We don't really always go together. We don't always really agree on the same thing. Humanity, from the beginning, they're always thinking how to prevail on others. Some people really always try to step on others in order their ideas, their mind, or their opinions prevail on others' opinions. And that's really a big problem. Why? Because when I see that I have something as an opinion, and the other person also has something as an opinion, and I always want my opinion to be the one that has to be followed, then that's a big issue. We also see that in the world, from the beginning, there will always been a lot of conflicts. These conflicts have been sometimes throughout wars, and the wars have really damaged a lot of things. We also heard the history of World War I, World War II, and probably if the war follows the current trend, we may face a World War III, because a lot of things are really passing in a different ways. Arms are being manufactured, and also people are always following very bad political intentions. And this is for sure for some economic intentions and political intents. We know that today, for example, if we are not having peace, that's for sure, due to some of the mind from the different countries, from the different colonized, and also the ancient nations. Yes, this is the word I was looking for, nations. You know, for example, the big powerful nations such as Americans, France, China, and Germany, they're always trying to have stepping on other countries like the smallest one. Example of our country, we are having some other countries that are really meddling into our affairs. And that's really a bad thing that's causing some of the interruptions in the politics and economics, and also sometimes hindering the development of economy of a country. And we know, for example, some intentions from the nations like China and America. They're always been fighting for being the most powerful. And this fight cannot stop, because if one of them doesn't really take the power over the other, it's going to be very difficult for them to stop this fight. We recently heard of the intention of China of taking over Taiwan. I don't know if you guys have already heard about it. And it's going to be maybe an objective of here not more than 4 years, 2027. And America is also really meddling in Taiwan. We all know that this situation is going to be getting worse, right? So if every nation is always trying to take over another nation, and this is going like trying to have two sides fighting in only one thing, that's going to be always a continuous fight and a conflict. And we also know that, for example, some conflicts that passed in the world have always had some traces, some influences in our current and present situation. For example, there is one thing we call it the revenge cycle. The revenge cycle, for example, in America at that period of time in 2009, right, 11 September, there was one situation in America. And when that happened and there was some terrorism attack, the Americans thought of, okay, we want to get doing the same thing to the terrorists. And when they did the same thing to the terrorists, they revenged, right? So when they revenged, the situation has been always getting worse, because they have really had a lot of war and a lot of harm in their situation. The economy has a little bit troubled. There was some politic depressions, and that situation led America to really fight against the terrorism. We also know, let's come back to our country and our continent. We see, for example, in some of our African countries, there are always some politics violences and some politic depressions. Some countries have recently have a lot of coup d'etat. We always notice this. And if there's always coup d'etat, there will be no peace at all. Why am I saying this? Because if today the army of the government is always trying to defend the country, and other people rebellions or not even rebellions within the country, there are militaries that are trying to fight over the power, the existing power, then the citizens and the population would never live in peace. Why they will not live in peace? Because they are really thinking that whatever is happening, whatever is coming to this situation is always going to impact them instead of impacting only the government or the sides that are really doing the conflicts. We also know that, for example, here in Chad, there are a lot of situations, there are a lot of characters, there are a lot of qualities that really leading to not living in peace. And that comes from our, we young people, and also our different habits. We saw that sometimes we really want to show ourselves others. We want to let others know that we are better than them. We want to really show off that some situations will always need to be followed only by us. And that's a very dangerous thing. Why am I saying it's very dangerous? Because it's always really bad. It's always really bad to only not accept others. That's what we really call the stereotypes. We just like see a very simplified image of others, and we don't consider them. We either think like he's coming from a tribal that's not really that excellent, or he's coming from a tribe that's not really good, better to be discussing with us, or coming from a community that's not really excellent. And when we think this way, we may for sure have very opposite opinions. And these opposite opinions may lead each other to always fighting. We also see that a very actual situation passing throughout the social medias, especially Facebook and TikTok, we see that many people are always trying to say things that are really harming others. And when we say this, it's always bad, that we don't think of others, we don't think about their emotions, we don't think about really what's going to happen next after we say this. So what I want to say is that to live in peace, we always need to think of others. We need to really to treat people equally. We also need to think of accepting others no matter what the difference is. We need to avoid saying harming things, and we also need to think of what's going to happen to our countries and try to think of the resolutions that may bring people together and work together as one and having a peaceful and harmonized society. So I think I'm going to stop here. If anybody is going to have any question, we can enlarge our discussions, and maybe also Ababa can give the floor to anyone in the room. Thank you.
Hi, Bechir. Thanks for the chance given. My very question to you is, I want you to define us what does peace mean for you. Then tell us what are the obstacles of peace, for example, precisely in our country, Chad, here. What is really stopping from peace to be instilled in Chad? Thank you very much.
Well, peace for me is living together as human beings with no conflicts, with no disagreement, and also working together in happiness in order to build a really special world, in particular one. So for me, what's really hindering peace to be established in Chad, there are really numerous causes, there are really numerous impacts to hinder peace. And we all know the first thing is injustice. We really have this problem of injustice here in Chad. Whenever something happens, we don't really try to work for justice and build that as a very essence thing for our country. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there is a kind of nepotism. Why do I say nepotism? Because, you know, in this country, if we all see well, we all know our situations, right? Those who are really treating or working in the government, trying to govern us, some of them for sure, do not really deserve the positions they have. And that's a very bad thing when somebody doesn't have really the position he deserves, and others are seeing and they have the potential to really deserve that position. They are really feeling different emotions, and this may lead to a very hatred thoughts, and that may also bring some difference. You understand what I mean? So another thing apart the injustice in nepotism, I also see that there is a very lack of education. You know, education is very key point. If we are really all educated and our rate of education, if it's really surpassing in a certain rate, then I think we will have the mature mindset, the mature spirit to accept others, to live with others, and also try to put everybody that deserves the position and bring back justice into our country. Then we can proceed with peace. Yes, these are the three answers I can give. For sure, the list is very long, but we're going to also have to give the opportunity to others. Yes, thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for your amazing presentation. My name is Fahima. My question to you is, in your opinion, do you think that peace without justice is possible?
Actually, peace without justice is impossible, because peace and justice are really related. Why? Because if today we're living in a world, or we are living in a community wherein there is no justice, there will be no peace. Because if there is no justice, supposing a group of people harm another group, and there is nobody to take the arbitrary, there is nobody to bring justice and treat those people that did this action, then the other side will look for revenge. If they look for revenge, there will be a cycle, a non-stop cycle of always trying to find a way to fight against those people who once did bad things to us. So I think peace without justice cannot be reached. Thank you.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, hi.
We are so glad to have you, and we hope to see you again and again.
Yes.
By the way, my name is Yasin, student here. My question is, without freedom, we can be in peace.
All right. Actually, first, freedom is a peace. And also peace is a freedom. Because imagine you live in a society wherein you're in a peace, but you are some way controlled by a system. You have no any freedom to do anything you want. Then I think this we cannot call it a peace. Why? Because, for example, today let's see animals in a forest. Okay, the animals in a forest have the ability to do everything they want, right? They have the ability to do everything they want, but they harm each others, right? They harm each others. They have freedom, but they have no peace. Actually, the opposite is impossible. So if we need peace, freedom is also a very essential and necessary point for us. When we are living in a peace, we really need to have freedom, because freedom can bring that point to a human being to really feel that he can bring out his potentials and do something for his community. So I think freedom is also part of the peace. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the floor. And my name is Muhammad Korom Bishara. I really appreciate your perspective related to the topics. It was so brilliant. My question is, mostly in Africa, you know, we are not in peace in general as the talkative talk, but we are pretending ourselves in peace. But reality is not. So do you think that this is the best way to be in peace, or to handle the obstacles that we are facing, or it's gonna impact us positively? Because we are not generally in peace. We are not in peace reality, but we are pretending ourselves that we are in peace. So what do you think on that? Is it good to pretend ourselves to be in peace, or we have to struggle another to handle, to overcome this issue, to have peace by itself? Thank you.
Thank you for that interesting question. You're right. We are really pretending to be in peace while we are not. Actually, most of the African countries have been in a very continuous war since the beginning of the very ancient colonization. And to today, we are still having wars. We are still facing a lot of challenges. We are still facing a lot of coup d'etats that are happening. Almost every 1 or 2 years, there's always a coup d'etat in one of the African countries. And that's really one of the proofs that we are not in peace in Africa. And coming back to your question, do we really need to pretend to be in peace, or do we really need to work for peace? I think we need to work for peace instead of pretending being in peace. Especially, we can also take the example of our country. We always see a lot of speeches from the government sides, from the politicians, that we are here in Chad in peace. And when it comes to reality, actually, we are not in peace. Why? Because we are always seeing a lot of attacks that are happening. We may see, for example, in Bol, last time there was some attack from terrorists, and that was also one of the actions. Recently, we have also another one attack in the north part of our country. We're never in peace, and we cannot really pretend for it. As population, as citizens, we need peace. We need really to work for it, not only the government side, for sure, and also it's really important to really stop pretending and start working for peace. Yes, thank you.
First of all, thanks a lot, Mr. Bechir. You said something about the Western imperialism, right?
Yes.
So my question is, how can we as Africans get rid of this imperialism that is draining our country? Thank you.
All right. Thank you for this important question. Really, this question is a very big one. I have mentioned at the beginning that I'm not really a specialist in such things. But however, I'm gonna try to answer the question. You know, the imperialism has been a very big blocking point for the African developments. And we all know it continues to really hinder both social development, political developments, and economic developments. And we know that recently most of the African countries are doing their best to get rid of the imperialism. But they are actually getting rid of one point, but really jumping over another one. Because whenever we say we no more want any meddling from any Western country to be in our country, then we go for another country to really meddle in our affairs. Then we're still under the imperialism. And I think we are currently in the post-colonialism situation. We see, for example, here in our country, it's very difficult for us currently to get rid of it. Because if we notice well, almost all the Central Africans are now getting rid of France especially. Remains only Chad. They are also aware of that, and they know what they really need to do to really keep Chad, at least one, within the countries that are in Central Africa. And to get rid of it, we really first to start having the consciousness of developing our country, especially having this patriotism, and really think of what's really beneficial for us as really a population or as a citizen of a country. We just don't think of personal interest or the interest of other Western countries. For sure, all our leaders for now or the previous ones, they have been thinking of their personal interests. That's why there was a certain control from the Western nations, because the Western nations commit and they promise these presidents a lot of things, and in counterpart, they need to do things that are really passing and opposite to our developments in order they can get benefits. And I think to do that, I mentioned the first is consciousness and patriotism. Second is really to work for it, because we wish it. All leaders wish it, but they cannot work for it because they think if they start working on it, then they can be just like, okay, cleaned. And another person will come and the process will continue. The third thing is actually we really need to develop our education rate, because our systems are just following very, very ancient and archaic ways of education. We really need to renew them. We need to update our educational system. And that's a very, very critical point. We need to do that. If we are all well educated and the rate is really higher, then I think everybody will think of how to get rid of this imperialism, of this post-colonialism. And another point I want to mention is really to develop some actions, to do some actions within the country to let the citizen think that really this country, we need to work for it. We don't need to change, for example, our position from this country to go and live in another country. We can work here, we can do things for our country, we can at least try to start initiating. However, the thing is smallest, they have to do it. Then we can process and continue to really get rid of these imperialists. I think others can have other views, more politicals, but I'm just reserving myself in a very citizenship way. Okay, I think here ends our discussion about the topic of peace. And I really encourage everybody who's watching the video to work for peace, to really treat all others equally, work for justice, being really open-minded and not trying to harm others. We need peace in our country. We need to really start doing things that are going to bring peace to our societies, communities, and to our different homes so that our country can be stabilized. So here, I want to say thank you all for watching the video. And I really encourage you to follow Tchad English Show and like the video, share it with others. Thank you.
Great.